I've been thinking about my ideal model railroading setup for a while, and over the last month, the vision has become more clear. In today's video, I will discuss my current vision as well as some of the process I will go through to turn this vision into reality. Let's start with one small change. One really small change with some really small trains. I believe my back and forth track with 3 scales is one of the highlights of my setup, and maintaining this automation is important to me. And I also have this Z-scale desktop layout that's not getting a lot of use. It's time to combine the back and forth Z-scale setup with the desktop layout and create a half dogbone back and forth layout. The first step is removing this really deep shelf that is just at the right height for me to hit my head on while getting out tools. The loop will go in the corner and extend out to the left. Using the switches from the desktop layout will give me some switching ability in addition to the back and forth automation. There will also be a separate loop inside the dogbone for some roundy running. Switching to the large scale trains, I'm making some small changes overhead. I added some strips of carpet under my O-scale Lionel fast track. The attempt is to make these trains a little quieter when running. There is some minor improvements, but I might look at getting some thicker carpet. I also added a metal support under the long span by the window. I did not realize how much this section was sagging. Another large change is a higher amperage power source for the G-scale trains. When running these trains during a live stream, they eventually overload the current DC controller. This new controller will have plenty of overhead. Now that we know the Z-scale back and forth track is going to be removed, what is going to happen to the existing shelf? This is going to become my HO scale shelf. I will maintain the existing back and forth track and add some additional track. I have some Atlas nickel silver track and switches from the 80s when I was first into HO scale. I'm going to use this track to create a small HO scale switching scene. The design is still to be determined. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the big change in my small space. The N scale is going to get a huge expansion. Building the Timesaver variation and getting into operations really changed my perspective as to what I wanted on a layout. And while the concept is similar to my original goals, how I'm going to accomplish those has changed dramatically. The main concept was and always will be around a circus coming to town. To accomplish this requires a few things: space for a circus train, and space for the town for the circus. The common theme is space, one thing that I have very limited amounts of. Another element of model railroading that I've always loved is the 69th Street transfer bridge along the west side of Manhattan. This is a remnant of the days that the New York Central had a freight yard in Manhattan and ran freight trains on street level. I love watching the sunset over New Jersey with the remnants of the transfer bridge in the foreground. And then last on the list is some freight and passenger trains. When the circus is not set up, the town and yard would be used for regular train service. And then I look at my available space and I ask myself, how is it ever going to be possible to fit these 10 pounds of ideas into a 2-pound space? I'm going to use some selective compression. This is going to allow me to fit those 10-pound ideas into the 2-pound bag. The layout design is not perfect. There's a lot of track in a small space. Some elements are in the wrong place to be prototypically correct or to make 100% sense to the story. But by using selective artistic compression along with some heavy doses of suspension of disbelief, I now present to you my latest track plan for this space. Here's a brief breakdown of the layout. Starting on the right side, we have the 100% remotely operated industrial area based on John Allen's Timesaver. While initially built as a switching puzzle, it'll also serve as a small industrial area. Next to this is the main yard. All the trains coming from out of town will go to this main yard first to be broken down for the final destination. The yard has a small locomotive servicing area, rip tracks, and several tracks to sort rolling stock. Attached to the yard is the car float. This is the area inspired by that 69th Street transfer bridge. The last item along the back wall is the town park, where the circus will set up when it comes to the area. I am also adding a small section of street running which is inspired by Death Avenue when New York Central freight trains used to run down 10th and 11th Avenues. As you can gather from the name, this name was given to the area due to the many accidents that occurred. As we round the corner of the design, we have our second industrial area. After trains arrive from out of town and are sorted in the main yard, a local train will drop the boxcars at these industries. And last but not least is the staging yard. This is where all of the out of town trains will be stored. The current design has 6 tracks, and I'm planning for 2 freight trains, 2 circus trains, and 1 passenger train. The 6th track might be used to extend a continuous loop around the room, but this will be for a future project. Please subscribe to follow along with my progress as I start reorganizing my space and acquiring the materials to build a big layout in this small space. From the city that never sleeps, farewell, model citizens.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.